Forsaken, a Roblox horror game that seems so notoriously controversial that I don't even need to explain the controversy. The drama comes included as free on-disc DLC with the game. So how did a Roblox game that isn't even that remarkable become so well known and popular? Well, I'm Breadian and I've been playing Roblox for 14 years now, and I'll inform you, this kind of stuff has happened before. Forsaken is a Roblox horror game that I've never played, but the name is all too familiar with me. If I had to describe Forsaken in just a few words, I'd call it the Eye of the Storm. By this I mean there's a giant raging cloud of external controversy, drama, and community engagement in general, but when one actually decides to play the game for themselves, it just turns out to be a standard middle-of-the-road but nonetheless successful Roblox horror game, or an asymmetrical horror game if you know what that means. One day I'm hearing about some Google Doc drama, or some people drawing nice fan art of the characters, or they're forsaking it to fan art of the characters, or they're writing a rant regarding how they loathe the community for ruining the game. I suppose that's what happens when you make a Roblox game targeted towards the same demographic as Regretivator. You see, as much as people love Forsaken, it didn't really reinvent the wheel in terms of how it was successful. In fact, it followed a template that was set before it, with some clear-cut examples at that. You see, asymmetrical games' biggest strength has always been their characters, whether these be original creations that catch people's eyes, or an already existing, recognizable instance of a beloved intellectual property.
Where's the shot of where it's just only the ass?
When you think of memes you've seen about Overwatch or Marvel Rivals, how many of them were just jokes about how hot that the characters were? Perhaps the closest example that I can find of Forsaken at this moment is Dead by Daylight, an asymmetrical horror game that one can simply refer to as the Smash Bros of horror media. But I want to highlight another strength of Dead by Daylight: the gameplay. As much as people do tend to perpetuate Twitter arguments regarding its design, at its core, Dead by Daylight's gameplay is quite easy to understand. You see, all the survivors have to do is repair 5 generators and run away from the killer when the killer chases them. The controls of the game are basically just mouse 1, WASD, and spacebar. Since the game is now almost a decade old, and you're basically forced to add new game mechanics so your player base doesn't get bored, you can infer that things got a lot more complex with time, and that's where all the controversies begin. However, on paper, the old versions of Dead by Daylight were, on paper, very unbalanced. But the game was new, and things were a lot more casual. Players tend to, when given the opportunity, optimize the fun out of a game. But the main point that's to be illustrated here is that the gameplay isn't incredibly hard to understand compared to the likes of a shooter game like Rainbow Six Siege and Overwatch. And most abilities in Dead by Daylight are just stuff like increasing or decreasing numerical values, or allowing characters to do things that they were already allowed to do, just in other situations, like being able to automatically heal instead of having somebody else heal you. Despite Dead by Daylight not coming to mind when one thinks of a competitive online game, there is a prominent side of the game that caters to more competitive players, and rewards people for having learned every killer's ability, every survivor's ability, techniques with the mouse, etc, etc. So what's the main takeaway here? Dead by Daylight is successful because 1. The game has a lot of characters that are well designed, or they're hot. This helps people form a connection to your game.
He's the killer. He's the killer. The killer is everywhere. He sounds like he's the killer.
Especially if said character is taken from a pre-existing IP that people have already formed a connection with. This also means that said person is more likely to spend money on cosmetics. 2. The game's core gameplay is easy to understand, and not very intensive. This makes it easy to get into. Also, updating the game may be easier than updating other asymmetrical games, which would require intensive coding for a character ability. This game can just add an ability that changes numerical values. 3. The game is addicting because it rewards the player for engaging more with it. It makes you feel like you're learning and getting better at knowing all the little abilities, and adding new characters means that people will have to play more in order to get used to them. Part 2. The Roblox games before Forsaken. While I did say that Forsaken's biggest comparison would be Dead by Daylight, I lied. There are Dead by Daylight clones in Roblox. Flee the Facility is the first that comes to mind for many. But what does it do wrong? A lot of things. The gameplay is very dumbed down, basic Dead by Daylight, not a lot of room for creativity. The Beast is not fun at all. If you've ever played this game, you know the Beast isn't fun since everybody knows how to play against the Beast now. I remember whenever my Beast chance would go up, I would just leave the server and find a new one, since playing Beast was so dreadful. Eventually the developers caught wind of people doing this, so they made it so that leaving the game doesn't lower your Beast chance, and they also added a paid microtransaction to lower your Beast chance. The gameplay gets boring after like 3 games. The game, despite its massive success, never thought to really update or change anything. They never added the 4 variations of the Beast, but they did find the time to add new loot crates every month or so. Kids love gambling. They also added double jumping, which adds nothing to the game really. But what did Flee the Facility do right? Well, in a non-insulting way, it was successful because it was the first. However, there was room for improvement, in which Forsaken seems to have mended. They took the easy, standard gameplay and added pre-existing characters that people grew attached to, and added customization that would lead to the player grinding for hours to learn it all. Revolutionary, right? What if I told you that there were Roblox games that came out years before Forsaken also did this? You would probably roll your eyes, because this video seems to be filled with a lot of asterisks. Murder Mystery, created in 2013, was nearly an identical clone of Garry's Mod Murder, a game mode that took the landscape of YouTube Let's Players by storm. Remember this formula: if something is successful, just make it on Roblox and you'll be fine. The game was incredibly simple, but addictive, so someone needed to embrace the addictive formula further for children. And like a vape company concocting a dark potion, there then came Murder Mystery 2, which added different abilities and cosmetics, which cost an arm and a leg, leading to grinding for hours on end of cookie-cutter gameplay, the modern equivalent of kids watching static on television. It's mind-numbing, and even as a kid I remember not being fond of this game, at least to the point where I would spend 40 hours a week on it. Following Murder Mystery, you also had Vampire Hunters and Vampire Hunters 2, which are ditto in relation. It's literally just Murder Mystery except with blood and edginess, which makes the 12-year-olds who play it think that they're mature, which traps them. Those Who Remain and Chain also do this. Those two communities were famously explosive when I made videos calling their games bad. I suppose their community is made out of slippery babies. Even the creator of Those Who Remain apologized on behalf of his community. He's a great guy from what I've seen. But yeah, Vampire Hunters 2 was pretty toxic, but the game had people making clans in a game where you either click on people holding a gun or you kill everybody, and you get to do nothing, so that's an achievement. Some of the popular abilities were the pocket knife, which did 25 damage and usually didn't impact the round that much since vampires only have 100 HP. There was also Diamond Skin and Iron Skin, which just increased how much HP you had. The abilities were easy to program, but they had cool names and cool Japanese kanji icons, which the target demographic absolutely ate up. Just remember this, okay? There was also Before the Dawn, a game whose name sounds suspiciously like Dead by Daylight despite the fact that the creators, at the time of making the game, never played it. The original Before the Dawn featured iconic slashers such as the Xenomorph, Michael Myers, Jason. It was grounds for legal action. But it was made in 2014 and Roblox was far less popular and mainstream, so you could get away with this shit. Don't forget about repairing 5 generators, and the game has really unbalanced abilities as well, albeit very simple ones. The most broken Survivor ability simply increases your speed to 250%. God, I love changing numerical values. Remember this too. There's also a game called Daybreak, where the gameplay is really basic, but there's characters and people grew attached to them. The fan base was so loyal that it was also really toxic. So years ago in 2022, I actually had a script where I was going to review it negatively, but I ended up deleting the entire thing because I didn't want to deal with the fallout of those people. Then I wrote the 30-minute Isle video instead. Part 3. Playing Forsaken. So now we're in the present day and Forsaken exists, and I'm not going to shit and piss on Forsaken because it didn't reinvent the wheel. It's a Roblox game that just wants to be successful. What does it have to do with wheels? But one can hope that you learned something from this video regarding the appeal of Forsaken, so you won't be fooled by some shitty engagement bait next time someone makes a game with hot Roblox characters. With that all being said, I'm now going to try out Forsaken. Yes, I have written this entire video thus far without having ever played the actual game. I hope the game somehow manages to still surprise me, but nonetheless, I've played these games before. It's my fault for having the curse of knowledge. Humans aren't meant to play Roblox for 14 years of their life. So I just played Forsaken, and it's, exactly how I thought it would be. The characters are all drawn in this Roblox Twitter art style, you know, the one where they have fluffy hair and they're all twinks. They're all twinks. I don't know how else to describe it, okay? It's the same thing that they did when they made that gay Roblox visual novel. They turned the guest and the work at a pizza place guy into skinny, tall twinks with fluffy hair. The art style brings a target demographic in, but also promotes them to make additional fan art, which is good for engagement. I get it, but somehow it disappointed me. For once in my life, while making a review, I'm not quite sure why I felt disappointed by a game. Typically, people feel anger and hatred towards a bad game, or even mild annoyance at the least. I just feel nothing. I feel apathy, which is terrible. In fact, hatred often comes from misplaced passion. Apathy is the absence of caring about anything. I'm afraid that I'm not a big fan of the gameplay, and I didn't find the characters too remarkable, since, well, from my POV, the characters don't surprise me. I'm the weird, strict dad guy. I play pseudo-classic Roblox games. Seeing a classic, trendy, fuckable Roblox character isn't going to catch my eye as easily anymore, because I've seen it already. Keep in mind, I'm a special case. I'm a niche guy. I certainly am not speaking for everybody. Using the few memories of Forsaken that I can recollect, if I could imagine the gameplay in a quick few sentences, I would say that a lot of it feels placebo. I would feel like the abilities often represent the illusion of choice. By that I mean the killer wants you dead, you're going to die, the ghost burger makes you transparent, not invisible, so anybody who isn't a jit or stupid can see you. It does prevent you from being red-pinged by the killer, but once again, that isn't quite active gameplay, isn't it? If the killer finds you, the abilities don't seem to help you out much, unless the killer is new to the game or something. Now, I can't speak for other players since I just played the yellow starter guy. Usually the starter character is given to players as a good representation of what the game's design philosophy is, or it's meant to help introduce them to the mechanics. The starter character should be the quintessential representation of a survival character. And it's shit. Barring my preconceived thoughts regarding yellow people, if I played about 40 minutes of Forsaken and I found the default character boring, then the game designer has failed me. In fact, if I wasn't a content creator, I may have clicked off of the first 5 minutes. I can only assume from the POV of a consumer that the rest of these characters are going to follow the same design philosophy, so it would make sense if I didn't decide to invest my time further, and I would just leave the fucking game. But kids don't know any better, so perhaps my thoughts don't exactly mean much here. Perhaps I'm just shit at the game. You know, the thing that all people love to comment under my critical videos. It happened with Chain, it happened with Those Who Remain, it happened with the Residence Massacre. I mean, such pleasant people. I'm lying. Fuck all of you, cunts. In short, Forsaken is the eye of its own storm. What happens outside the game is far more remarkable than the actual game itself, because the gameplay itself is dry, but the characters are hot, apparently, so yeah. Alternatively, this game feels like a truck spinning its wheels in the mud, slinging shit everywhere without actually going to any new places. It doesn't create innovative content, it believes that the name of pre-existing characters in the content itself is enough to entertain. And on the other hand, I believe a controversy can only carry a game so far. Widespread attention is good for getting the name out there, but exposing a piece of art to a wider demographic will often result in diverse minds of people bringing unwanted attention to its flaws. That includes both the flaws with the gameplay and the creator. Forsaken had cracks showing pretty early, lots of bad PR, so notoriously known to the point where I don't even need to explain it. I don't know the entirety of, or even the latest specifics, and I wouldn't doubt that others do not either. They're probably jits playing on their iPad. I vaguely know about it all, the information was fed to me over and over again, non-consensually, like most Roblox drama is. I liked when people used to just ask me about games, or what Roblox used to be like, or if I could identify a game from their childhood based off of their testimony since they forgot the name of it. Now I just hear, "Did you hear about the drama with ... To which, no matter what I answer, they will proceed to tell me anyways. I solemnly look back at the days in mid-2010s Roblox where the biggest drama was just people shitting on game devs who stole ideas from others. Now it's convoluted Google Docs of bad things that aren't fun to talk about. I tried to make a normal review on this game, but stuff like this just keeps happening. This is why I stay niche, and maybe you should check out my other videos where I used to be more passionate. With that being said, I wrote the bulk of this video before the game was cancelled, and without even having played it. But at least you have some proper contextualization on how the game like this becomes popular, and thus you can expect a game like this to prop up again. Perhaps not to this scale, but definitely inevitable in some capacity. Again, I'm Breadian, the guy who wants to talk about niche Roblox games because they tend to not have baggage. So if you made it this far in the video, could you please suplex the like button, subscribe, and then check out my channel? There's a lot of nice videos there for you. You can also join my Discord, check out my Roblox group, and follow me on Twitter. I post selfies.